Hi, and welcome to this week's Moment to Pause. I ended last week's video by stating that this week I would be talking about allyship. However, given everything that has transpired over the past week, I thought it best to actually define privilege. Privilege tends to be a very polarizing topic right now. On one hand, we have people who would point out the various forms of privilege, while on the other hand, we have those who would suggest to us that privilege does not exist. And frequently, the conversation is shut down in this way: I don't have privilege. You don't know my upbringing. I don't have access to capital. We weren't wealthy. And since we weren't wealthy, we don't have privilege. I even had one person say to me, well, I must be using my privilege wrong. The reality is that is a misunderstanding of what privilege actually looks like. Privilege does not always carry with it some economic benefits, but instead it always has some cultural and social benefits instead, which might eventually become economic benefits, but it is not immediate. One of the ways that I like to explain privilege is through the lens of handedness. And when I say handedness, I mean left-handedness versus right-handedness. So in terms of handedness, in the US, we tend to cater to right-handed folks. And as someone who was right-handed, I never had to consider what it was like, what it would be like to be left-handed until I had my daughter. My daughter was born left-handed. She is still left-handed. She's not ambidextrous at all. She is left-handed. And it wasn't until she went to school, really, that I began to pay attention to the ways in which she experienced marginalization related to handedness. First day of school, or actually before school began, we went and got everything on the school supply list. You go into the school supply aisle. My oldest daughter is beginning school. Let's buy all the school supplies. Scissors, yes. Pencils, yes. All the things that she would need for school. And then, as she began school, I began to attempt to help her to write. Couldn't do it. I began to try to teach her how to use scissors. Couldn't do it. Because the scissors that she actually needed were hyphenated. The scissors that she actually needed were left-handed scissors. And so we went out and we bought left-handed scissors, which were really difficult to find, actually, believe it or not. And so I began to pay attention to the other ways in which she experienced marginalization in this right-handed world. I go to the refrigerator and I open it and I get exactly what I want from it. She goes to the refrigerator, she opens the door with her left hand, and then she literally has to reposition her body to see inside of it. And so one of the ways that I like to explain privilege is by thinking about the ways in which people who experience marginalization in this society have to reposition their bodies. Whether that is a literative repositioning or a figurative repositioning, there is a repositioning. Whether that means ensuring that I keep my hand on the steering wheel when I am stopped, or whether that is changing the language that I speak in school so that I won't be assumed to be ignorant. Right? There's always a repositioning for those of us who experience marginalization. I hope that helps to understand privilege. I'd love to have more conversations about this. And of course, maybe next week there will be further conversation about privilege. But I hope that that definition helps us to kind of digest it and make it a little bit more understandable so that when we're engaging in conversations about privilege, that we're using the actual definition of it and that we aren't actually creating a more polarizing conversation. Thanks, and see you next week.